An American boy drowned while trying to save his aunt from a river, but 32 years later, he suddenly woke up in the middle of a rice field in China, confused and unaware of what happened. He walked toward a nearby group of people, and passed out before he could figure anything out. Since no one could find his parents, local officials contacted the U.S. Embassy to send him home, but the U.S. had no clue what was going on either. Agent Nick had no choice. He followed the boy's story and brought him to the address he remembered, but the man who opened the door was in his 60s. He admitted to being Jacob's father, but didn't believe for a second this was his son, because his son had died many years ago. Jacob didn't recognize him either, so he asked a question only his real dad would know. The old man answered instantly, and Jacob realized it really was his father. Nick couldn't wrap his head around how a 60-year-old man had a 7-year-old son. The old man was just as confused, because he had watched Jacob be buried. It was a ground burial. When Jacob's uncle, the town sheriff, heard the news, he rushed over with Jacob's death certificate, but the moment he saw Jacob in person, he was completely stunned. To get to the truth, Nick ordered a DNA test for Jacob and his parents. The result came back 99% match. Childhood photos matched perfectly. Even the case files and news reports confirmed Jacob had died. Jacob himself clearly remembered how he died. He just had no memory of what happened during those missing 32 years. Back then, the drowning was known by everyone in town, so Nick decided to dig up Jacob's grave. But when they opened the coffin, they were shocked to find Jacob's remains still inside, and the clothes on the body were identical to what Jacob was wearing now. DNA tests showed a 100% match, which meant Jacob hadn't come back to life. He had simply reappeared out of nowhere. As Nick struggled to understand what was happening, that same night, a second person came back to life in the town. Nick rushed to the scene to question him, but got nothing useful. He had no choice but to leave, not knowing the man in front of him was hiding a huge secret. His name was Galen. 13 years ago, he robbed an armored truck out of desperation, but died of a heart attack while hiding the cash. The case was left unsolved. Just days later, the same bank was robbed again, and the method was identical to the one from 13 years ago. At the same time, Galen's daughter got a call from him. He said he was heading out of town for business. Nick immediately realized something was off. He called the sheriff and went to arrest Galen, but they were too late. Luckily, the town had already blocked off all roads. After a full day of searching, police found Galen's hideout. Strangely, even though he heard the sirens approaching, he didn't try to escape. Instead, he walked out and surrendered without resistance. Nick was completely confused, and Galen just calmly said,
"It's just beginning."
At first they thought he was just messing with them, but that night, a third person appeared in the church. It was the priest's ex-girlfriend, who had died by suicide 12 years ago.
Did I really die? Tom?
Even more shocking, she was 2 months pregnant. Dr. Kelly reported it to Nick. He instantly remembered Galen's cryptic words, and rushed to the jail to get answers. But Galen was coughing non-stop. He couldn't say a full sentence. Nick went to get him a glass of water, but before it filled, Galen vanished into thin air. Surveillance footage confirmed it. Even his blood sample at the hospital disappeared. He was completely gone, as if he'd never existed. Thankfully, Jacob didn't disappear. But something even more terrifying was happening. Jacob had already sensed Galen was about to vanish. Just then, the archivist